So welcome to another video from theplayers8.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look at Europa Universalis, The Price of Power. And this is from Aegir Games. Now this is the... what am I calling this? The latest Europa Universalis board game. Because my understanding is that this was a board game a very long time ago.
Yep.
And then Paradox made it into a computer game. And that's gone through at least 4 iterations. And now we're back to playing it as a board game.
Yeah.
It's the board gaming equivalent of moving back in with your parents. This is a 4X kind of game.
Yeah.
You govern, trade, conspire, and conquer is what it says on the game. This is a massive, incredibly deep, incredibly rich board game about whatever you want it to be. So this is a historical game. It can play anywhere from like... First off, we have the deluxe Kickstarter edition.
Yes.
So this can play from like 2 to 6 players. If you buy the regular version, it can only do, well, 1 to 4. It can't do 5 or 6. 5 or 6 is only for the Uber edition. And there are solo bots for like everything, so you can play it solo. Now... This is kind of a first impressions because we played this once. And
we played it once, but I want to make sure it's clear it was all day.
yes.
It was not a short game. We didn't make it very far into it.
No.
We played it 6-player, and it's a very slow-paced,
Extremely.
slow-moving, build-up style game where
Yes.
you're expanding your little realm. By doing a lot of interesting things, it just takes forever.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of resources, and it takes a lot of cards, and it takes a lot of planning and some luck. I mean, you've got to get some cards in your hand that you need. But we played it one time.
With 5 players.
I said 6, 5 players.
Yes.
And I would say it's a very interesting experience. I had a good time with it. I just thought it was very slow moving. And we're war gamers.
Yes.
We play games regularly that are 8, 10, 12 hours long.
Oh, we'll play a game this whole day too.
Right. And
We played this all day, and we got through half
Of an
of
age.
1 age.
Yeah.
And I think the grand campaign is 4 ages.
Yeah,
The retail version is 3 ages.
got it.
And I've been speaking to people who are like experienced players, and they've played it a few times and really like it. And even them, an age takes all day.
Right.
So at best, you're looking at a very long weekend to play this whole thing. And so just know that going into it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really comprehended what that means. Because people are like, oh, it takes all day. Oh, it takes all weekend. This is an all weekend. This is an all week game for your first probably play.
Well, and I think that's the reality of it. We were brand new players.
Yep.
Experienced gamers, right?
Yes.
Heavy gamers. And it took 1/2 of an age. Took us like 9 hours.
It was a really long time.
And we ultimately decided at that point we had understood what the system was, and we wanted to go ahead and call it. Potentially to play in the future at some time. It's got to be with the right people.
Yes, you have to have the right group and the right kind of time and commitments for this,
Yeah.
right? That's the big takeaway. I don't want to like scare people off necessarily, but you have to understand what you're getting yourself in for. Like, we have a lot of big, heavy games that will take all day to play, but they will be played at the end of the day. This one will not. And so, as long as you understand that, and the reality is that there's no convenient way to, like, save the game and move on.
Right.
And, like, come back to it.
You could if you did a computer game.
You could. If
Yeah.
only there was a
If only
computer
there was
game
a computer
version of this.
game.
Someone out there, digitize this, make an AI and excellent graphics. If you feel like you have the capacity to do that, I guarantee you're going to have a surefire hit on your hands.
And this is tongue-in-cheek, so please nobody believe that we're idiots enough to not understand there's already a computer game out there.
I own it.
Yeah, we know that.
EU4 is great.
Yeah.
And it's like Paradox famously makes some of the most complicated and deep
And
rich
involved games, yeah.
computer games. And they're wonderful because all of that stuff is automated in the background.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you have to do it all here. Especially with the solo bots, it's these very long, complicated flow charts that you cannot memorize, that you have to go through every time. And then they have separate flow charts for like priorities and order of operations as well. So if you want to do it solo, go for it. You can. It is very involved.
Well, and I think a solo game, I mean, you're going to leave it set up for a month or so, and you're going to play a couple of hours at a time here and there, learn your way through the system. By the end, I think you'll be getting through much quicker, but you're going to have to go at your own pace. It's not something you can do in one afternoon. You just can't.
But I think that's, if you're interested in this as that experience of a solo player, and you have the dedication to do that, I think you're going to have a really good time with it.
Because a lot of the stuff is very unique and interesting.
This is going to scratch all of your itches that you want to do.
I know we've kind of come off negative at first.
It's not even negative. It's just you have to understand what you're getting yourself into.
I think I wanted people to understand when you buy this game, that's what you're getting. I mean, it's a slow burn.
Very, very long. Slow burn. Very, very big.
Well, I want to highlight 3 parts of the game that I utterly enjoyed. One of it was the management of your 3 areas, right?
Your different monarch powers.
Your different monarch powers. Your administrative, your diplomatic, and your military. You have a certain amount of cubes that kind of start the game there. I think each side is a little bit different, maybe unique. I can't remember that.
Well, yeah, because of the leaders and stuff.
Right, the leaders you have, you can put advisors down, but that's kind of your currency, and those are used to fuel actions. Actions like, so in the military area, it's raise army units or move those army units or attack or do some of those things. In the diplomatic, it's treat with people to make them vassals, or gain an alliance with them, then treat with them to become vassals.
Yeah, make
and then annex them, and then marriage. Yeah, and all those things are very unique. The administrative is more. I'm trying to remember some of the.
That was for like
developing technology, and they call it ideas.
Yes.
So building those ideas, which will improve your civilization, your faction.
You can make small towns into big ones.
Yep.
You can do improved trade areas.
Yep.
Lots of bits and pieces like that.
So all of those really, I thought, worked well together to make an interesting resource management puzzle.
Yeah.
And I really liked the change national focus. I think every power, one time during the action rounds, can decide, okay, I'm going to move a couple cubes from diplomacy and administrative over to military, and then I'm going to hunt through I can discard some cards that aren't working for me, buy some cards out of the discard pile, or get new cards that I might need. Now,
it's very expensive.
It is very expensive.
You have the action economy, and as a regular economy as
there's
well.
There's money.
So there's a ton of layers to this game.
But I really liked the way those couple of things work together. The other thing I really liked about the game, the thematic side of it, I thought was very well done. I mentioned the alliances first, vassalizing different areas, doing a marriage offering because that ultimately allowed you to influence them easier.
Makes it easier, yeah.
And then annex them. That's the way you grow your empire, and that's a 3 or 4 step process. Now you have to take actions to do those.
Yeah.
There are a couple of events that will come out. You can get cards in your hand. But I liked that process. It was just a little too intense for me.
It's one of the things about this game that you have to understand also is that you can do that. You can go through all these rigorous steps and all this cool stuff, or you could just invade them.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing.
Right.
And it's
because you were the Ottomans.
It's a different kind of expensive.
It is.
It takes a lot of money. I got to build and sustain a lot of troops and field them and be successful in going out and doing all these sieges and maintain those. And then you can enforce annexation on them and things like that. But I do like this is a very, very deep game and gives you lots of options. The outcome of my military campaign and all of your vassalization and influence is the same.
Ultimately, it led to our empires growing.
Yeah,
in a different way.
But the towns were now mine. They were same for yours, and that. But doing it in a different way, and for what I can tell, was reasonably symmetrical. Took us the same amount of time.
Yep, it did. It really did.
And to pull that off and to make that successful and reasonably balanced, again, from what I can tell from a play, is an achievement.
Yeah.
That was neat to see that you can go about things in different ways. You
Yeah.
can sit there and do a bunch of trades if you've got your merchants out and trying to, secure lots of areas so that you're guaranteed good trade returns and things
Yeah.
like that. Really, really powerful.
Well, that trade system was very unique because the more trade hubs you control and or areas or regions, those are going to come up more often on those cards. So you can kind of look at them, okay, if I control 7 of these areas they're mentioning on this card, I'm going to get 12 coins. If I only control 5, I'm going to get 4 coins. So it made it advantageous for you to kind of spread out. And I liked it.
And what I really liked about those is that they were all different.
They were.
If you use the Black Sea Trade Hub, one card it's got 6 cities. On a different card it's got 6 different cities.
Right.
So you can't totally monopolize those without having a gargantuan empire.
Right.
But you're never 100% sure that you're trading. But that was a really neat little aspect of it too. But
and the final part that I really liked was the cards. I thought the cards were very interesting. Each of those different monarch powers had associated cards. And I bet in a deck of 50 or 60 cards, they had 8 or 10 kind of different cards.
Yes, the selection of cards was small, but which it's just interesting because I'm not used to playing a game like that.
Agreed.
I think that's a very Euro style of mechanic where it's like, here's my deck of cards and there's only 6 types of cards in it. So it was a little jarring going back to something like that because I'm used to playing a card 60 cards and they're all different.
Yeah.
And they all do cool different things. And so going back to something like that was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I've got like 4 of the same thing. Oh.
Yeah.
Just trying to remember what kind of a game we're playing, but also they do that because it's so important. All of those cards are very, very important in their own way. And to have one person monopolize them by having like the only 2 out of the 60 card deck would be stupid. And so it allows you to, like you said, when you change national focus, fish for the card that you need.
I thought that was one of the best parts.
It's likely to be there.
Yeah.
Or just like gamble. If I need to try and get, the subjugate card at the beginning of the next round, I am going to draw 3 diplomacy cards because it's more likely that one of those is going to be a subjugation card instead of getting one of each, for example.
And I think at the beginning of the game, everybody kind of got one of each because we didn't really know what was going to happen.
And so there's interesting nuance there to this, but you just have to understand what it is you're getting yourself into.
Right.
And this suffers from the one thing that comes up quite a lot here at the Players Aid, I feel, is that you start this big, and so does everyone else. And
there's this much space in between you.
And we're so far away from each other.
It takes forever to get there.
You spend the whole first age not interacting with anyone, basically, because you're just growing. Whereas we're just used to playing games. I don't know if I'd say used to. I think I prefer games where we've done all of that bit, and we're just on top of each other. So we're immediately trying to do some diplomacy, or do some conquest, or do some trade. Let's make an alliance instead of like, hey man, who's playing a different game over on the other side of the map,
exactly.
Basically. It suffers from that in that first age. That goes away, obviously.
Well, but I think our comment as we were playing it is just fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Give me 3 or 4 more territories. Give Poland 3 or 4 more territories so that we're right on top of each other. And that way we're going to begin having to build alliances and strategically think about where we're going to go next. Or come into combat. I know why they do that because a lot of Euro players are adverse to conflict in many ways.
Yes, but what I think that they did do to try to combat that more is that they have this power struggle deck. And you pull a new power struggle each round, and that tells you what the military focus is for that turn. And it doesn't involve everyone every turn.
No.
It'll say, these 4 regions, you have to have at least 3 towns in that region. And if you don't,
you lose.
you lose 5 points.
Yep.
But if you do,
lose prestige,
you gain
yeah.
5 points. And
Yep.
and so that forces conflict upon Euro players.
Yeah.
Because you can't afford to lose those points.
And that was something I think we realized early on was we'd get 2 or 3 prestige points from doing something,
Then you'd lose
and
them
then you
immediately.
automatically lose them, and it's like,
You have to keep
Yeah.
the wagon train rolling.
and I think that actually was one of the more interesting parts of the game that
Yes.
forced conflict was those power struggle cards.
Because in any other game that's like this, you know, those FFAs, it's always, I build up, we don't do anything, and then someone wins an economic victory.
Right.
Every time. Whereas this one, you are encouraged to at least have some kind of influence struggle, if not
Right.
outright combat, which you can do, but you're encouraged to do that kind of thing. But you also have the excuse of like, well, the card and the points told me to. It's not personal,
Right.
Right? You've got that
Yeah.
kind of out where it's not quite so mean spirited.
And I get that, but I think with our gaming group, it's just understood. Sometimes you're going to have to attack me, and I'm going to have to attack you.
Yep.
And it's just you just
Yeah.
roll with it.
That's
right?
not a
It's
problem
just-
for us here.
It's not really a problem. The other thing I did really like were the events. So there was an
Yeah, that was a
event
neat
deck,
part of it.
and there were a certain amount of those showing. I think with a 5-player
It's
game, there
one
were
more than the number of players.
okay. So there were 6 of those, but how many of them were revealed? I thought it was
only ever 3.
Only 3, and some of those were really good.
Yeah.
Meaning, oh, you gain some prestige, or you get some resources, or you get a cool new leader that's really going to help you build your civilization. And everybody's got to take one of those events before they pass
You must
at the
take
end of the
one.
game. So what I found myself doing was, those aren't for me.
Yeah.
I'm protected from that one. That one's not going to hurt me very much. I don't care about that one. But every time a new one came up, I was like, oh, I got to start thinking about that because that one's good for me. I enjoyed that because it kept me engaged. It kept me watching other players and thinking about what could happen because those could happen at any time. And some of them were those mean-spirited, you know, pick an enemy and he gets the plague in a couple of his places. And
But in classic Euro style, it's I'm going to jump on this before anyone else
Yep,
does because
absolutely.
I'd rather do it to someone else than they do it to me. That
Yep.
felt very dominant species to
It
me.
did.
That little
It
bit
did.
part of it.
Yeah, deal out the damage before they can deal it out to you. But I liked that part of the game.
Yeah, that
I thought
was
that was
neat.
interesting. Overall, I thought there was a lot of good things. I think it just suffered from the grind. You just have to grind it out. You got to go through it. You got to, and it's just really slow. And it's just part of it.
It's interesting because we play a lot of pretty dense games,
Mm-hmm.
and we read a lot of rule books that are very thick.
Yeah.
But this one was, there's no one rule that's very complicated.
No.
There's just 100,000 rules.
Well, and this rule book's like a magazine.
Yeah, this is
Right?
like
It's like 70
peak
pages.
war game rule book.
Yeah.
And
50 pages.
And it's just, there's so much to try to remember all the time. If you are taking one action, it's like, cool, you need to have this, and you need to pass through this gate and this gate to even be able to do it. And it's like, so there's no fast actions hardly.
No.
And so making that come, like, bear fruits on the board is it's very slow.
Yep.
And, you know, there's a lot in here, and a lot of people are going to love this game.
I agree.
A lot of people are going to think this is the best game ever because it's so deep, because it's so rich. But, you know, there's a lot in here because they put everything in it.
Yeah, agreed.
There's
It's
no mechanics they left out.
It's also very interesting the way the mechanics work with the components. You know, there's a lot of pieces as we were setting the game up. I'm like, oh, what are these? Well, those are rebels, right?
Yep.
And those rebels will come out and they will vex you from time to time. And you'll have to roll a rebel die. And it's going to hurt you most of the time.
It's bad.
But that's pretty cool, right? It was kind of unique. Some of the other pieces, like the different cardboard counters, the vassals and the marriages, and as you're setting it up, you're like, I have no idea what this, but it all works together in harmony, and you got to figure out how to use those things well to your advantage. This game is very highly produced. I mean, the coins were fantastic, metal coins. All these pieces are, wooden meeples, wooden control markers, beautiful counters. They have recessed boards that hold the pieces. Yeah. It is, in true Euro fashion, it is pimped out.
The only beef with that
we didn't have the player aids that we needed.
Oh, I was going to say, do you remember those little army boards that just were
yes.
paper thin?
Very flimsy.
And they immediately folded up in any kind of heat or humidity.
I thought that was odd. Yeah.
And the Emperor board was the same way.
Yeah.
The status board.
We had to print off some player aids because we just didn't have enough for 5 players. That actually was helpful. We threw them in the box because
and those are a bit clearer.
Yeah.
With the game flow in them as well.
Yeah. I think overall, I would actually play this game again, but I'm gonna have to pick the right people to play it with.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm the right person for this.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was fine what I was doing, but also like there's a lot of games of this style out there.
Yeah.
And I might prefer to play one of those because this is such a commitment.
It is. It is.
Both time, but also like it's a commitment to learn the rules.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And everybody to learn the rules,
Yeah, and it's so you need to have a dedicated group for this.
Yeah.
But if you are that group, this game, more than almost any other game, will provide you a level of depth unforeseen in board games.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's a computer game. But you have all of this in here. And that is a testament to Aegir Games, to getting it in and for it to be workable.
Yeah.
And
pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, that's an impressive feat of design to put everything into it. And it functions. Yeah. That's definitely the case.
One final comment I want to have about the game is I think a lot of people told us this will be a rival for one of our favorite games, Here I Stand.
Yes.
Here I Stand is a similar, kind of that Renaissance time period.
I think they start at the same time.
Yeah. Kind of that same time period. You've got some of the same powers. And it's also, Here I Stand is a diplomatic, military action, political control, alliance making. And yes, I can see how they compare. But we have played Here I Stand many a time.
Yeah,
that game is ultimately playable. It also takes 9 to 10 hours, but you can play an entire 5 to 7.
That game is done in a day.
Yeah, we finished a game on Saturday after we played this on a Friday.
This is a 3-day game.
Yeah, this is a 3-day game, but we finished Here I Stand a full 5 turns, and the game ended with England winning, and I cannot compare the two. No. I don't see the comparison. I don't believe they're the same style of game. This one is way more complex and deeper just for complexity's sake in some ways.
I think that's also a fair statement. It might not be complexity for complexity's sake, but it sure feels like it.
It feels very complex.
Whereas maybe this is us being like totally out of touch with wargamers, but
sure.
Here I Stand comparatively, it's really easy to learn.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Even though it's not.
Here I Stand, we've played 4 or 5 times, and it's like, and the rules come back to me every time because they make sense.
If I had played this 4 or 5 times, I might feel
comfortable,
some more familiarity with it, and yet, it's a lot.
I agree.
And I just don't know if I'm ever going to be able to have the time and the groups to play this 4 or 5 times.
So I would say I would play this again, but it would have to be with the right group. It would have to be a group that committed to it. We'd have to leave it set up over a 4 or 5 day period.
Or at a big con, right?
Or at a big con. I just don't see it being played that often any other way. Some of the group members that we played, it just wasn't for them, and you could see that.
Yeah.
There's a lot, let me give you an example. There's a lot of moving pieces, and one of the players, I was watching them, they were not trying to cheat, but man, they were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And I'm like, you shouldn't have that many diplomatic cubes left over, because you have to pay at least one. And I know you don't have the coin. He was just getting confused.
Because it's very easy to do.
Because it's very, and it bothered me because I remember how patient I was with understanding, okay, I'm going to do this action. Here's what I need. And if you don't put that time into it, you're not going to be able to play the game the way it's meant to be played.
Yeah, for me, this has probably a bit more Euro than I appreciate in a game like this, and I'll play it for one day, but I don't know if it could hold my attention for three. I think that's not an unfair thing to say, at least on my part.
It's a big game,
but
I mean, there's no doubt.
But I know for a fact that there are people out here who both love this game and it's their favorite game, and that there will be groups where this is it, right?
Yeah, I totally
that
get it.
game
Yep.
that they're going to crack out, at least every year.
Every year they're going to play. They're going to play over a 3-day weekend.
And it's going to be the best experience of their lives.
And I think that's great.
Totally fair.
Because we have games like that too.
Absolutely.
And we enjoy playing those, and we look forward to those every year.
And those aren't everyone's style.
No, they're not. There are people that tell us that game, Here I Stand, is not for me. That's great. I disagree with you, but that's great.
That's how people will feel about this one too.
Yeah, I would agree.
If you have any interest in this, you should check this out.
No doubt.
If you know someone else who owns it, play their copy.
Yep.
And if you're on the fence, try the video game. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's always an option.
I think the unfair thing with these kind of reviews is I just don't want to steer people away from it. Because I think there's some good stuff here. It's just not necessarily for us.
No, that doesn't make it a bad game necessarily. Just means it's not for my taste.
So Matt, our friend Matt
Tibbetts,
would love this game.
That is probably true.
Yep, he absolutely would love this game.
He would like Dark Ages too, I think.
Tim Vale would not like this game.
Agreed.
And I would never be able to play it with Tim.
But I would never want to, because I
agree.
I don't want to make someone play something they don't want to enjoy.
No, I totally agree. But if I wanted to play this, I'm going to get Matt, I'm going to get a couple other people, and I would play it in that way.
This is the kind of game that I will continue to expect to see played at large and long conventions.
Yeah.
Where you'll have a group of people, and they will sit down and they will play this for a few days.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're going to see, or at game clubs and things like that. So this is Europa Universalis, one of the biggest boxes of the year.
It's huge.
It weighs, what, like 30 pounds?
At least.
It's just wood and cardboard.
And we have the mat, the rollout mat.
Which is funny. In the unboxing, I said, I would never play without it, and then we did.
We used the hard-mounted
and board. Yeah, because if we'd have had 6 players, I think we'd have used that. But because we had to play the eastern side of things with the snare that we used, we still needed the New World, and it was easier to use the boards. But, we had everything with it, and it was great to play with, that's for sure. But check this out if this is something that you're interested in. From Aegir Games, Europa Universalis, The Price of Power. But appreciate you very much for sticking with us and tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.